Be teachable. Never be afraid to be curious and ask questions when you don't understand something.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Jay Christ, and welcome to another episode of the Design Life Show. In episode 85 of TDLS, I'm stoked to sit down with Diane Gibbs of the Design Recharge Show. She has been a designer for over 20 years and entrepreneur since 2002. She has been a design professor since 2003, teaching the next generation of designers and illustrators. Professionally, Diane has won over 24 national and international design awards, and she coaches creative solopreneurs from all over the world. In this episode, we talk about her design life stories from ground up, why challenging yourself is very important to keep moving forward, how being curious can be your best asset to build an amazing business, the importance of having a "I can do it" mindset or attitude, and how to start your own business by making lives better for others, and how to make yourself better on pricing, and a lot more. So make sure to stick around until the end, and hopefully you'll enjoy this episode as much as I do. And before we go dive into this week episode, I just want to thank you a ton for listening to the podcast and making TDLS as part of your listening habits, and for me that means a lot. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or SoundCloud, or any of your favorite podcasting app, and check out all the previous episode at thedesignlifeshow.com. So that's it. Thank you. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode. You're listening to The Design Life Show, a podcast that's helping everyone grow to live a meaningful and creative life. It's me, Jay Christ, a designer from the Philippines, best known for being an advocate of essentialism and optimism. I'm sitting down with awesome people to talk about their journey, their process, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Hey everyone, it's me again, Jay Christ, and welcome to another episode of the Design Life Show. And I'm really stoked right now, and I think this is a dream come true for me to have Diane Gibbs on the show. And most probably you've heard her podcast as well, her show, the show, the Design Richard podcast, and it's really an interactive web show and podcast recorded live with audience. And I'm one of the fan of her content as well, and I'm glad to have her on the show. So Diane, how are you? Thank you so much for dropping by on the podcast.
I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so glad that you asked me to do this. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm too. I'm super stoked to have you on the podcast and to really share your journey and your grand up story for the Philippine audience, especially for the TDLS listeners. And speaking of that, just to give context, for those who haven't heard your name or your show, can you share a little bit about what are you doing and how you get started in this journey?
Sure. So I studied graphic design and I graduated in 1996. So I'm super old, but I think I have lots of energy for being somebody who's been around. And I also think our industry is really full of life. And so I love, it's always changing. It's something that if you wanted something that was the same thing every day, design is probably not the right field for you, because you have to be able to love learning and you have to be able to, change. That's how marketing is. And I think that I love our industry. I love, if you can't embrace change, this probably isn't a good field. But I got my degree, and then I moved to Denver, Colorado, and I worked as a publication designer, and I worked for a corporation, and I did a little bit of freelancing, and I did a lot of snowboarding, which probably you don't do in the Philippines. But I grew up in the South, so in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I went to college at Auburn University, and then I moved to Denver, and I really had felt, even when I was in college, that I wanted to be a professor one day, but I really had felt called by God to be a professor. But I just kept putting it on hold and on hold and on hold. And I got, my last job in Colorado was with a corporation, and I was the advertising designer. And I got the job, and it was awesome. It was great. And not 2 weeks after getting the job, my boss came up to me and said, "Are you still looking for a job?" And I was like, "What?" I'm like, usually people like me. Like, usually I have not made any enemies in 2 weeks. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, no, I am not. I'm happy. What's happening?" And so I think that's the way God works. I think that's the way he knocks on the door, and you better answer it, or bad stuff's, doors keep closing. Right. So I was like, okay, I hear you. And I decided to go back to school, and well, nothing was wrong with me, but they were from the upper management. They were going to close the marketing department. They didn't end up closing the marketing department for like another 10 years. And then they have re-upped it because my best friend works there now, and they actually have offices in the Philippines even.
Ooh, cool.
But so it didn't happen, but it was just the impetus. It was that first kind of knock, and I answered because I knew that was what I felt like I was called to do. So I went back to school, and I went to Virginia Commonwealth University, which is in Richmond, Virginia. So I had to move across the country again. And then I studied design again at a deeper level, more theoretical, and it was really good. Learned a lot about typography. And then I started my business, and I moved to Mobile, Alabama, and I got a job as a professor teaching graphic design. But as a professor, I have to do research. If I was like a
Mhm.
biologist or something, I'd be cutting up frogs, or I have no idea what biology people do, right? Or geologists, they
Yeah.
study rocks. Well, for us as designers, I could have clients or I could write books. Well, I wanted to be able to make money.
Yes.
And so I decided I was just going to, and I love helping people. It's not that I was just money driven, but I also think um, maybe people don't get an idea of how much a professor makes, but where I teach, it was more like a high school teacher's salary. Now, I didn't work. I don't have to be at work as long as the high school teachers, but it wasn't like this huge amount of money. So I really did need to supplement my income. And so I did that, and I grew a business. So from 2002 to now, I've had my own company, which is Little Bird Communications. And I have had clients. Some clients have been with me for 15 years.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
it's, there's something to be said about being able to grow with a company, and that they feel like you're part of their team. So I love that fact. And I have a lot of long-term clients that I've done their website 4 times, or right. I mean, it's an investment, it's time, it's stuff I do every month. For some people, stuff I do every quarter. Some clients, I do stuff every week. And so I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I challenge myself. I remember in 2005, my husband was like, "Hey, can you make my website?" And I was like, "Nope, I don't want to do that." Because at that point it was all HTML and
Mhm.
CSS and tables. Everything had to be in tables. And I was like, "I don't want to do it." And he's like, "You really should do it. You should really know how to do this. This seems like something you should know how to do." And so I was like, "Fine." And I did it. And I'm so thankful. He's like, aren't you glad I made you do that? And I am super glad that he made me do it. But I think one of the things is that it's about challenging yourself,
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And that was one of the biggest challenges. And now I know that I can figure it out, right? There's YouTube, there's lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning or whatever it's called now, and Udemy. There's all kinds of learning tools that we can use, that Skillshare, that's not very expensive, that we can dive in and kind of get some answers. There's also communities that we can join to
Mhm.
get deeper answers. And I think, you know, I guess that's been, for me, being a professor, I have to have clients, but that's not enough. Like, for me to get promoted within the university system, I had to win at least one national or international award a year. So there were other things that count, towards getting promotion. And so I don't necessarily think that I would have pursued that otherwise, but it really does help clients to know that it's an award-winning design firm. And
Uh-huh.
I don't have any huge clients like Coca-Cola or,
Mm-hmm.
these, and I think that maybe that's, maybe we all maybe would love that, but really Coca-Cola is going to use you once. They're not
Yes.
going to use you for 15 years. I had a customer say, you can go after the big guns, but really it's the people that are going to stay with you. These small mom and pop
Mm-hmm.
shops are going to stay with you long term. And over the course of a customer, right, for them being your customer, they actually are more valuable than having Coca-Cola and doing something for $10,000 or something, right? Because
Yeah.
these little mom and pops over 15 or 20 years, they will have paid you way more than $10,000. So I think it's not always about ego. It's also, to me, it's really, I want to be able to help people. So I ended up having to go through and, try to get awards. And I've been able to win over 25 international and national awards, but it's not what I necessarily value. What I value is that my clients have been able to stay in business and my clients have been able to thrive. My clients have gone from solopreneurs to scaling entrepreneurs that are of teams of 15. That's a win. That
Wow. Yeah.
feels like I did what I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do. When somebody sells out all their packages or all their products, or they, to me, that's winning. And
100%.
when
Mm-hmm.
I teaching a student, it's not when they graduate, is when they win. I feel like I don't win. I don't graduate until they get a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just not enough. I think, and to me, it's not always about the money. I mean, you have to have enough, right, to pay your bills. But
Yes.
then there's a point where it doesn't matter anymore because you have enough. You can do the things. So now let's make some other people some money. Let's whatever they love to do, let's get it so that they can do that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for creatives, you can do it. It does take hard work. Nothing, there is no quick key command for getting rich. It's hard work
Yeah.
every day.
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every day, and even during the weekends, you need to grind, right? So it's really to call it overnight success. Sometimes people need to work 10 years, 15 years to call it an overnight success, right?
Right. Right. It's all
Mm-hmm.
that learning that you do.
Yeah. So Diane, I just want to highlight your transition from being let's say an advertising designer into being a creative solopreneur, or a business owner, right? So what are you thinking back then when you're transitioning into being a business owner? I think here in the Philippines, like having a business skills or mindset is like a privilege, right? Especially in the I don't know if we can here in our province. So the main job here is farming and factory jobs or whatever, because um, schools are teaching those things for you to be employed in a company, not to build your own business. So I want to
Mm,
really dig dive on your thinking, what's going on in your mind while transitioning into being a business owner.
I love that question. That's such
Mm-hmm.
a good question. So it doesn't matter if you're farming or if you're in a factory,
Mm-hmm.
there is something that's not working right.
Yeah.
There more than likely it's about being okay with the
Mm-hmm.
status quo. I don't think everybody's
Yeah.
called to be an entrepreneur,
100%. Mm-hmm.
but there are people who are like, you know what, this could be better.
Yeah.
If this was done this way, it could be better. It could be a system in place, right? Like, hey, maybe we should, do this before we do this, or maybe we should, do you know what I mean? Like, it could
Yeah.
just be a
Mm-hmm.
systems thing.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be, so then you're creating a system for your company, or you create a system that other companies um, could replicate. Um, it could be a product, just like Eli Whitney, right? When he invented the cotton gin. I'm from the South, so we have a lot of cotton, lots of farming,
Yeah.
and they were hand picking. My parents both hand picked cotton when they were kids, and not that they're old enough that Eli Whitney and the cotton gin wasn't around, but if you've ever seen cotton, I don't know if y'all have cotton over there. I mean, I'm sure you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
cotton, but you know what
we
I
have
mean.
it.
So,
Yeah.
but you have this bowl of cotton, and then there's these seeds, and you really have to pull out, right? So now there's a machine that does it, but there wasn't a
Ah,
machine that
mhm,
didn't. Eli
mhm.
Whitney was working in the fields, and he realized there must be an easier way, and it's about being experimenting. And
Uh-huh.
me and you were talking about this before.
Yeah.
It is about experimenting. Well, I wonder if this would work. It's about being curious. It's about just exploring, even if this might not solve a problem, but really if we are teaching our kids to be problem solvers, and like, instead of saying, oh, you do A, B, and C, right? No, sometimes you just say, hey, fix the clock. And you don't tell them how to do it. They have to
Mhm.
figure it out. They either have to watch a YouTube, or they have to just tinker with it and see what finally works. I think that that would be a better way for us to teach somebody who, because those are the thinkers we need. Those are creative thinkers, because it it can't it's not always solved with A, B, C, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So to
Mhm.
me, it's about understanding, uncovering that problem. It could be a problem that you just hate, something that's on your phone, or something in a book, like bookmarks. I am now so sold on these magnetic bookmarks.
Oh.
I love them. They're
Mhm.
small, but they clip a two pages together. Why didn't I think about this? You know, a
Yeah.
bookmark falls out of a
Genius.
book all the time,
Mhm.
right? But a magnetic bookmark doesn't. You clip it to the top of the page, and it's there. It is not moving. To me, it's like, oh, that was an easy problem solve, right? But why, for many, many years, hundreds of years, we've used bookmarks, with which is a piece of paper marking your spot, right?
100%. Yeah, I think that's really, I'm glad you said there's no a linear way to point A to point B, right? So there's a lot of ways to solve a problem or any kind of problem and to make it better, really. And I'm just curious, Diane, with regards to your internal motivations, right? I know you're really, you've surround yourself with people, with a lot of great people and smart people. But what's your internal motivations back then when you want to really transition into being a business owner, to really own your craft, to really be driven on helping other people's, or create create amazing things with you, with your clients or with other people you are coaching. What's your internal motivations, just to share to our listeners?
So I think, I mean, on the total base,
Mm-hmm.
total at the base of everything, the core is that I'm a Christian, and I
Gotcha.
believe we're supposed to love people. And I love Jesus, and that's, for me to help people is for me to show that. But the
100%.
other thing I think really God placed on my heart was that people are supposed to be able to be creative. And what I see is that people think, oh, well, I just have to do this on the side. This,
Uh-huh.
I can't make a living at
Mm-hmm.
this. And I'm like, no, you can. That is a
Mm-hmm.
limiting mindset, and it is not truth. And I believe that, I mean, Jesus was all about that, turning over tables,
Yeah.
telling. And to me, it's like there was no limiting, and there is no limiting, because I
Mm-hmm.
believe that our God is a big God, and he can do a lot of things. And even with tiny people like me, he can do something. And
Mm-hmm.
I really, um, it's never been about the numbers, or God would have put something else on my heart,
Yeah.
I think, because I don't even know how many people downloaded. I don't look at that. Thank
Seven
goodness, because I
figures,
don't.
right?
Right,
Several.
right. Um, but I think I want, you know, uh, my husband has asked, he's like, well, what if we won the lottery? Would you still teach, or would you still work? And I said, yes, this is my calling. This is not, I don't just do it to make money. And I think that that's maybe where the difference is
Mhm.
between maybe somebody who's farming, who isn't passionate about it. Because I actually know a lot of farmers who are absolutely passionate about it. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Mhm.
awesome. But
Mhm.
there are some people who take a job because it's a job. And Jim Carrey has a talk. I think he did a graduation. I think there's a YouTube. I'll try to send it to you so that
Yeah,
you
sure.
can connect it at the bottom or something.
Mhm.
But he talked about how his father was hilarious, even funnier than Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is an actor. He's a comedian. He's done a ton of work for a lot of years. And his dad gave up and decided, because he had a family, he was going to be an accountant. And when he was like in his mid 50s, he lost his job. And, had he pursued what he was passionate about, he would have been able to make more money. But a lot of times people don't believe that they are good enough, or that they can learn it, or they can work hard and get it. And I believe that we can. I think that is something that is put on us by society or by the devil. I don't know who's doing it, but somebody's making us
Voices
believe that we
inside
can't
us.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Those negative self-talk for sure. But I've also seen people that don't let anything stop them, and they help so many people because they fought, and because they did what was uncomfortable, and they just didn't accept. They said, this is not the way it's supposed to be. It's not either fair or it's not right. And it's just like even with Eli Whitney and the cotton gin, he's like, this could be easier. These people's hands are just getting torn all apart. This could be easier. And I just think, he did this. I'm sure he wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to make a ton of money off of this. He was doing it because he wanted to help and make it easier, because they could pick a ton of cotton, but they couldn't get the seeds out easily. It was taking too long. So to make his life easier, he did this. And as a result, it made his life, he made more money, or you know what I mean? Like those things come
100%.
after, but the motivation has to be something else. It's like you with
It's
your
beyond business. Yeah.
right. And if you don't have that call, that purpose, no business will ever, no job, no career, nothing will ever scratch that itch, because it's, you have to find what you're passionate about. And it doesn't matter what it is. I just think that there is a way. There are so many people in this world, and so many weird needs, so many hobbies, so many things. And there is a way to do it. Somebody once said, you need to do your podcast for 5 years, Diane. And I said, okay, I can do that. I can make that commitment.
Yeah.
And they said, because it's just like a marathon. A lot of people drop out of the race because they can't stay in. And Ashley, who does all the scheduling for me, and she's my right-hand man or woman, whatever.
Yeah.
She, I said, after about 5 years, I said, Ashley, I don't know if I want to keep going. And she said, well, how do you feel after an interview? And I said, I feel invigorated. I am excited. I've just learned something. And she said, then it's still serving a purpose for you. And I do it live, so I know that I'm not alone. I think it would be harder, I think, to do it. I mean, it's me and you right now, right?
Yeah.
But for you, there's a commitment, because you're doing this without seeing any automatic results, right? And I think that for me, I needed that reassurance. Now, granted, I just cared that there were 24 people that they are watching that, right? That was enough for me that 24 people came live. I know that they're not amazing. It's not 100,000 downloads. It's not 1,000 downloads every episode. I don't even know what the episode number is, but I know, right now it could be between, 300 and 1,000 a week, 1,200 a week. That's it. But to me, it's like, wow, if you were in a room with 300 people, that's a lot of people. And to me, that's enough, because maybe some of those people are getting helped. And I think if it's, 10 hours a week for me to help 24 or 300 people, I'm good with that. Like, let's do it. Let's help.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I'm really connecting with that, because, like what you said, it's really a commitment to really share, provide or value to the community or whatever industry you are in. And it really takes a ton of hard work. And for me, it's a massive experience, a learning experience, right? So I also, my mindset also as well is to whenever someone, ping me about something they've learned in one episode that I did, that's more than enough, right? So that's more than enough
Mm.
that they are learning, and maybe I'm doing a good job because of that message. And right now when Diane Gibbs, commented on my post, wow, Diane Gibbs of the Design Recharge Show. So this is really amazing. Something's really happening, right? Something's really, growing on me, or maybe I'm doing the right thing, or I'm on the right direction. So I'm just giving some context for those Filipinos that, the limiting beliefs and mindset that society, instill on us is, something that we can change, right? So we can make it better, right? So less but better, so right, so we can always do the essential things and right things, beyond our business and beyond our professions or job, right? So thank you so much for
Can I
sharing that. Yeah. Sure.
can I ask you a question?
Yes. Yeah.
What's your
Mhm.
motivator?
My motivator, actually, my motivator is really my family, right? So because
Mm.
i'm a I'm a 30 years father now, and back then I'm just, trying to really find, you know meet ends, something like that, or find a job that really
Mm.
meet my ends, or my things that I need to pay, pay the bills. But right now, my main motivator really is my family, and to build my legacy, not just to build my name
Mm.
or my business, or some of my clients are not really millionaires like you, Dan, right? So and and it's really important that you retain, during these times, especially COVID-19. You want to really retain them, as long as much as possible, even though there's a lot of work behind that. And then, yeah, that is, and I think that's really, a win-win for a long-term perspective. And a lot of people don't realize that. So I think that's is something that we can highlight, right?
Right, absolutely. But one of the things, like a super strength, is your ability to write. I mean, this is not
Yeah.
your English is awesome. Like
Hmm.
you're like you're doing way more than I'm doing, and you're helping. Your motivator is also, if if it was just for your family, there's also must be something
Uh-huh.
pushing you to help other designers or other
Hmm.
entrepreneurs, especially in the Philippines, because you keep coming around because you want to make it relevant for them. And I think that,
Yeah.
you're a superstar because you are fighting for them
Hmm.
every day, because it does take a lot of work to do.
Yes.
It takes a lot of
100%.
work.
100%. It's always an uphill battle. And yeah, maybe another motivator for me, except number one, also is the, I'm seeing a lot of questions about, about the problems, or problems on the creative industry. And I'm really thinking deeply every night and day to really, how can I share my journey, my expertise, to really bring them, and to bring them to their right goals, right? So to really bring them to the right direction. And one thing that I'm really passionate of is to experiment things and being really curious about it, and share my progress on that. And I'm not really trying to position myself as an expert, although some people uh, calling me as an expert, right? So I still, as a designer, as an artist, I still, pa- for me, I'm still really trying to be curious, and make it really better for my clients, for the students that I'm teaching on my mentorship program. So I think that's one thing that you've also mentioned, and I'm glad you raised that up, especially for TDLS listeners.
Yeah. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, you being able to experiment, being curious. You're not saying that you're an expert. You're saying, I'm going to try some things and I'm going to figure it
Mhm.
out. And then I'm going to share what,
Yeah.
what I've done. And my
Yes.
goodness, that is invaluable. But a lot of people have too much fear to
Uh-huh.
even try, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why so many people are just in farming, but they're not passionate about it. Or so many people are just doing the factory work, but they're not passionate about it. They have other passions, but they don't think that they could make it. So for you,
Mm-hmm.
you are serving as hope. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to show them that you can do this.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot.
I think that's great. I'm super glad
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it. I'm super glad you're
Thank you,
you're
Diane.
experimenting.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, and that a lot of people don't realize that there's still a lot of challenges behind it. And speaking of challenges, you build an enormous things throughout your journey, Diane. And I'm really fascinated about the business you are doing right now. With regards to challenges, what's the biggest struggles that have you overcome or still overcoming with your business or with your professional life?
So I think when you asked me that earlier, I wrote it down, and
Yeah.
I think that we're always struggling with something. If there's
Mhm.
not, then we have a problem with our ego because it's
Uh-huh.
not in check anymore, right? Um, but I think a lot of, in the beginning, I think it was skills when I was
Mhm.
younger, right? And there's still skills. I still have to learn new skills all the time. I mean, that's just the nature of our business. But it has to do with your attitude. And is this going to be a struggle, or is this going to be experiment, right? Is this going to be
Yes. Mhm.
exploring? Is this going to be something that I get to am excited to do, not that I don't want to do, right? Because now web design, in 2005 I did not want to do web design, but now I absolutely love it. And I love doing the strategy for somebody's digital content for their website. I love working on that. And then I design a lot of sites, and then I sometimes have other designers that work for me design the sites. So to me, my biggest struggle was scaling. And
Mhm.
my another biggest struggle was mindset. So it was about, oh, can I charge that? Or
Uh,
um, you know,
mhm.
am I worth it? Or can I do this? And so I think it's someone seeing something in me. My friend Dustin Lee, who runs Retro
Uh-huh.
Supply, um, it's like they do digital brushes and things like that, and they're amazing. He said to me, uh, he was like, well, whatever. He's like, you should do this. You should try this. You should, um, uh, you have something, Diane, you need to push. And so one of the things I'm working on this summer is something that Dustin and I talked about in 2016. So he believed in me way long time ago, right? But I didn't believe in
Mhm.
myself. And then 2 years later, I got to meet another one of my mentors and friends, right? And um, Chris Doe from the future.
Yes.
Do you know who
Mhm.
he's? So,
Yeah, of course.
future without an E, right? No
Yeah.
ego with the E. So
Yeah.
I love Chris, and Chris pushed me,
I
and
love
Chris
him.
said,
Yeah.
"I do too."
Mhm.
He said, you need to do this, Diane. And he challenged me, and he said, "Okay, well, here are these 5 things I think you need to do, and I want you to do them by Monday." And I'm like, huh, okay.
Wow.
And he said, what are you going to do if you don't, what are you going to do if he had a celebration. So I had a result that was a celebration in my mind. And then he also said, what are you going to do if you don't? And I hate
Mhm.
mayonnaise. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that seems like, I don't have a
Mhm.
ton of money, right? I mean, I have
Mhm.
enough money. I have plenty of
Yes.
money. Absolutely. I can get anything that I want, but I'm not money focused, I guess.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody has to have enough, but I'm not, anyway, I'm not living in a mansion, right? But I love where I live, have 4 acres, love it.
Mhm.
But he said, so I didn't want to like burn anything or a guitar, or I didn't have anything that I really uh was valuing that I was going to have to sell or do whatever, right? So I was like, I hate mayonnaise more than anything. I'm going to have to eat a big spoonful of mayonnaise if I don't do these 5 things that Chris wants me to do by Monday.
Mhm.
And I, of course, made the goal because I was like, I am not going to eat that
Wow.
mayonnaise. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's just, but it was having Dustin and Chris see something in me
Mhm.
that I think, and that's the power of us being involved in community. That's you being present in your community and hearing what people are struggling with, and then sharing what you're learning is huge. And I think that if everybody realized that they, the journey is what you need to share, instead of trying to wait till you get there, because you're never going to arrive. You're never ready to be a dad, right? You're never ready. There's never like this perfect time.
Sometimes
Oh,
I'm
I've read
faking
all
it.
the parenting, right? You're learning as you parent. And I think that's the same way with an entrepreneurship. We just are learning as we go. There's going to be new things that come in, and we have to be able to pivot and flex and be able to, when people push back, we're going to see which side of the fence we're on. And then we
100%.
take a stand, and we can change our mind. It's not like I took a stand on this and I hate mayonnaise and I will never be able to like mayonnaise ever. I never will eat anything with mayonnaise. That is not true, right? Like I eat
100%.
tuna sandwiches and they have mayonnaise in them. So, but
100%.
I think that, I think it's just, I think for me, I needed somebody to believe in me. And so that even spurs me on to see up and coming designers and to show. I mean, when you posted that, I was like, oh my goodness, I want to know how you did this. When you have this as a product, I am buying it. I want to know this. This, to me, how you were able to do the ranking. And you said it was just experimenting. And I was like, no, you are selling yourself short. It's not just experimenting. It's analyzing the data and being able to pivot with that data. Hey, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. So you're underselling all these things that maybe are natural talents.
Yes.
And I think people I think people don't realize that sometimes their superpower are these things that are these just natural gifts that God has given you. And you overlook it because you think everybody has it because you've had it. You've been this way your whole life. But, not everybody's like that. And you are unique and you are special. And this is a superpower. And I can't wait to buy this thing whenever you release it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Diane. That really means the world to me. And just to highlight what you've said, when someone believes in you, nothing. It's not about the money. The feeling that they'll give you, that they trust you 100% with the way you are doing it. It's really, for me, it's surreal, right? So living in a country that, in a society that negativity, it's really surrounds you, right? So when someone believe in you, and that's really, for me, it's a really, really means the world to me. With regards to self-worth, Diane, you've mentioned the worth, right? So, and it's natural, especially in the creative community, to really sell ourselves short, right? So let's face it, right? So especially in the Filipino creative community, I even know someone that's selling a logo design for just $40 under, right? So, or maybe that's about 1,500 in peso. So what's your thinking about that? How, if someone is listening right now that underselling themselves, or just trying to find find a job and then get that money, right? And then pay the bills, and then they are living to paycheck. What's your best practical advice for them?
Okay, I tell this to students all the time, and I do think some of it has to do with experience.
100%.
The more experience you have, the more knowledge that you have, the higher your price can be. But what I tell a student is, really, they should never charge. When they get to me in college, they have had maybe 2 or 3 design classes. They should never charge less than $250 for a logo. They're like your friend, right? The $40 logo or the $50 logo, or they'll just do it for you. Sometimes, okay, I get the altruistic. I've done things like that, but then you really need to be passionate about that project or that company that you want to give that away. Because here's the thing, your Adobe suite isn't free every month. Okay.
100%.
So that's $60. You at least need to charge $60. Okay. So then past that, you had to learn some of that. So if they went to college, or if they've done learning online, how much is that a month? How much was that a class? How many classes did they have to pay? All that education. This is not even just
Mm-hmm.
time. You
Yeah.
didn't sleep so you could watch YouTube so you could learn how to do this. You paid with sweat equity. So my sister had this great, I used to make jewelry, and she said, Diane, what if this takes off? And I said, okay, that'd be great. She said, well, somebody else has to make the jewelry. You can't make all the jewelry. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. She said, well, who would you trust? Who would you want to work for you? And I said, oh, I would want the girl who taught me, somebody definitely who I trust. And I value the quality was high. She said, okay, well, how much would you pay her? And I said, I'd pay her probably $12 or $15 an hour. And this was back in 1996, so
Yeah.
that was a pretty good rate for that. And she said, okay, well, that's what you're worth, $12 to $15 an hour. That's how much you need to log every necklace that you make, every bracelet, and then you see how much that is. And then we're going to, it's not just cost. I mean, it's not just your time. Now you have to think like an entrepreneur. Well, you had to buy the beads. You had to buy the string. You had to buy all the other things. Then there was packaging that went into it. Oh, and there was time that you as a designer made the packaging. And then there's marketing, right? So you have to think about all these things. And now that $40 thing doesn't even seem like it. You're right. Holy moly. What was I doing? I was making really nice, a really nice meal and giving it away for next to nothing. I think about it if we're thinking about cotton, right? You're out there picking cotton. Somebody has to pick that cotton. You have to pay somebody to pick that cotton. Or if it's not a human picking the cotton, somebody has to run that machine, and you have to put gas in that machine. All that costs money. So that makes it, to me, is very clear I'm sorry, my dog's barking.
It's okay.
It's very clear that there is more cost. I think that we aren't thinking about all those things that come in, right? You have electricity at your house. You have internet you have to pay every month. Why don't you add all that up? That's cost. That's cost of you doing business. So,
100%.
and you have to buy a new computer every 5 years. So there's the cost. So here's what you buy: a $4,000 computer or a $2,000 computer. Divide that by 5, and then divide that by 52, or for weeks if you want, or 12 so then that's how much that computer costs you that month. So if you're trying to see what this logo is worth, so if you're in your beginning stages and you haven't done many logos, I understand it's going to be a lower price. But as a kid graduates, I don't think they should ever charge less than $500 for a logo.
Gotcha, 100%. So yeah, I'm really taking notes in here to really hear those advice. For listeners, make sure that you're taking notes, right? So it's really invaluable for everyone in the community. But Diane, I think when someone here in the Philippines, one biggest problem that I'm seeing is the positioning, right? So, and it's in a society where we live in, like we just we've learned to be an employee, right? So not a business owner. What's your best practical advice to them to really up their game, or up their worth or self-worth with their or even the prices that they do, or the prices for their works, or for their logo designs, or whatever creative deliverables they are sending to their clients? What's your best practical advice for them?
So I'm going to give you an analogy, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
How much did you prepare for being a dad? Did you have to position yourself as that? I mean, do you have to sell your daughter on it? Hey, I'm your dad, right?
Yeah.
Do you? You have to sell her on that, or she believe you because you're around?
Yes.
Right.
No. Right.
So the position is so with dogs. I don't know if you're a dog person or not, but with dogs, there's a pack leader. And so with an entrepreneur, it's very much the same. With a parent, it's very much the same. You have to lead the room. And that doesn't mean that you're leading with aggression. Usually those dogs are actually fearful dogs. The pack leader is the calm. So when you are an entrepreneur, even if you don't know everything, you have to be able to figure it out. And you have to know where resources are. So really, one of the best things people could do is be great researchers or have a great network of people to be able to ask. So finding a mentor, somebody like you who understands what the cultural or societal or what businesses will pay, that they're in it, you know what it is. Somebody who's done it before. So somebody, maybe if somebody wants to work for somebody else that's in another country, then talk to somebody who's doing that. Talk to somebody who has clients there. See if they could mentor you, right? But for it, you're a great example of this. You're giving tons of content away for free, right?
Mhm.
But you also have this, that you will help people on a one-on-one basis because you're going to mentor them. That means that you're going to invest in them. This isn't consulting. There's a difference between consulting and coaching.
Uh-huh.
You come back every week and we help you get better and better, just like a coach at a football team or soccer or baseball or whatever. They're coming back every week. The kid gets better. Well, it's the same thing, but the coach believes that you could do it if you do hard work, if you do your practice. Nobody's coming and saying, oh, you know what, I'm gonna play the piano. Oh, really? How long you been playing? Oh, I started 30 minutes ago. I'm gonna do a concert tonight. No, that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Nobody does that. But they have teachers, they have mentors. So why do we put so much pressure on ourselves that we have to um, be a business owner, we have to have someone tell us that we are ready? Because you're never going to be ready. It's just like you as a parent, but it's just like as the pack leader. So you're the pack leader probably in your house, or your wife is, right? And there's the calm. And when in a business, it's the same way. So if you want to be a business owner, then be a business owner. Then start experimenting, just exactly like what you said. Experiment. You have to know that there will be failure. I did not get on my bike. The first time my dad was teaching me how
Yeah.
to ride a bike, I fell a whole lot that day, a whole lot, probably the whole week I fell. When I was learning to snowboard, I fell so much that my tailbone, I thought I had mud or something on my hiney, right? It was black. The bruise was but it was so much fun. So it's about embracing the fun of the failure. And that's something Chris has really worked with me on. He said, Diane, your expectations are way too high. This is the first time you're doing this. Why are you expecting it to be perfect? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And maybe it's us as designers, we're perfectionists, right?
Yeah.
But you did not position yourself as a dad, except that you tried to have a kid and then you had 9 months to prepare, but you're never prepared. Every day is a new day. There will be new things every time a kid comes home with some other new experience, new thing that you didn't think about. It wasn't an experience you experienced as a kid. So you don't know, but you know what? You just take it, and you are the pack leader and you just go. So you as a business owner, you will not know everything that's coming down, but you need to be resourceful. You need to have a network of people. And I think you need to support. That's why we need the community. We need to support each other. When somebody's struggling, somebody needs to be that cheerleader for them. And when and a guide and a mentor. That's why what you're doing in addition to this podcast in the mentoring is so critical. There's tons of people who don't want to invest in someone. And it's not for free, right? This is time, but it's not like you're just showing up for the call and you're doing nothing. You probably do a ton of research. You're trying a lot of different things to help that one person. And I just think we all need to reach back and we all need to mentor. And I'm talking about a teenager needs to mentor a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old should mentor a 6-year-old, because we all need to have somebody in our lives besides our parents that's teaching us and that's seeing the gold in us, right?
Gotcha. 100%. Yeah, I'm really taking notes here. That's really invaluable, and hopefully our listeners will really find that helpful for their own creative journey or creative entrepreneurship journey, right? Yeah.
I hope I just want
Yeah,
them
for
to know
sure.
that it's every day.
Uh-huh.
You just have to get up and try. And
100%. Mm-hmm.
you're not going to know everything. And if you're waiting till somebody till you're ready, you're never going to be ready. It's just like being a
Mm-hmm.
parent. You just have to be a parent. You have to be the best parent that you can today. Same way with a business owner. I've got to make the decisions today, right? The thing that I think is the best. Can you change your mind? Absolutely, and you should, because you knew more today than you knew yesterday. But don't expect it to be perfect, and don't ask for validation. You will earn it by experimenting. Exactly what you did. You're a perfect example of this.
100%. And yeah, I think we should really be aware of that, be aware on that. And it's not that we we're trying to be perfect, but to really improve every experiences that we are engaging with, right? And it's really the best time to really take action. And I always said to the community, or whenever I have speaking engagements, that whenever you start, you are one step ahead from someone who never gets started, or never did, or never do something about their business or about their passion. So that's really valuable. Thank you for that, Diane. And yeah, I think we can wrap up the show, right? So, and thank you so much for for giving your positive vibes on TDLS listeners and on the show, and for dropping by on the podcast. Just before we wrap up the show, you've mentioned that you have a creative business bootcamp. Is that right? Uh,
It's Yeah,
mhm,
it's called Creatives.
mhm.
I changed the name today, but
Cool.
it's a summer camp that I'm doing. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, summer
Mike?
camp. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to do a summer camp. It's 25 experts,
Gotcha.
um, 5 days a week during the 5 weeks of July and 2 days of June, the last 2 days of
Whoa.
June. And so Christo,
Wow.
Mike Janda, Tom Ross, Melinda Livesey, and lots of other people are helping me out with this, and they're all going to teach a different thing. And it's really about reaching your audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's about refining that audience,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that audience. It's about retaining that audience, things you can do to do that. And there's some reframing. So there's some mindset stuff. Chris is going to talk about that failure and that fear, and pushing through that, because that's something that he really helped me with. Mike Jand is going to talk about listening, and how
Wow.
he is such an avid,
Mm-hmm.
takes notes so much, and he's there just like you're present
Yeah.
in your community, and you're seeing what some of the pain points are. Mike's doing this too. And I just think, we all have these skills, and I just want to come together. But it's not just that. There's going to be a community aspect where we're going to come together and
Mm-hmm.
have a Saturday time together where we are all on the same screen. And then we are probably going to do some breakout rooms so that you guys can
Wow.
get to know each other. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's some other things that are going to be just included in it as well. And I'm just excited, because to me, those 4 R's are ways that people can, they'll be able to raise their price, right? They
Yeah.
hopefully understand their worth,
Mm-hmm.
because they understand who the client is that they're going for, and they're understanding who the client is, how to reach that client, because you're listening to the pain points that are out there, the content that you're creating. And then the retaining them is what are you doing within that relationship with your client, that you can keep them for so long, or that they want to keep coming back, or that they feel like you over delivered and you made them feel special. and
Mm-hmm.
and then just that there's so much mindset work when you own a business. And I don't know if it's worse for creatives because I've never not been a creative, but I know that when I talk to a lot of creatives, we do doubt. I feel like I'm a superposer lots of times instead of having a superpower, right?
Mhm.
Everybody, nobody is if people say that they don't worry about um oh gosh, what's that word? Where you think that you're a fraud.
Yeah, imposter syndrome, something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, imposter syndrome. If somebody says, "Oh yeah, I don't deal with that," they're
Yeah.
lying, or you do not want to be friends with them because they don't have a clue about reality. Because everybody who has empathy, everybody who has, um, I mean, we all, if you're really trying to grow, there's a ton more you need to learn, right? Whenever anybody says, "Oh," if I ask a kid sometimes. I think this happens a little bit earlier in life than in now. I know if somebody asked me, what if you're on a scale of 1 to 10 in Photoshop, where would you say you were? I'm like a 2. And I've spent a lot of years in Photoshop, but Photoshop is huge, right? Now, if somebody
Yeah.
asked me that about InDesign, I might be a little bit higher, but a kid in school would be like, "Oh, I'm at like a 9 in Photoshop." I'm like, dude, you are not a 9 in Photoshop. All it's like saying, um, first grade, you know everything there is to know about the alphabet and you could write anything you want, right? No, there's
Yeah.
there's all these nuances that happen. And I understand that when you're young, you don't realize how far the journey is or how big Photoshop is or how big InDesign is. But it's bigger than what we think. And imposter syndrome is there, and
Yeah.
we need a community. You need a community to be able to help you face that and realize that you're not alone and everybody's like you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's really awesome. And where they should go to learn more about the Creative Business Ignite Summer Camp.
Okay, so so I changed the name today.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
called Creative. That's
Creative.
okay. My
Uh-huh.
friend Debbie Clapper was like, "I think that Creative Business Ignites kind of
Uh-huh.
blah." So since it's summer camp, it needs to be fun. So it's Creatives
Mm-hmm.
Ignite. So hopefully,
Gotcha.
it will be at creativesignite.com, and it's just
Uh-huh.
going to forward back to it's to a place on rechargingyou.com, and it will live there, and that's where people will purchase and people will. So it's not ready
Cool.
yet, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping by the end of next week everything's up,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just making content and
Sure.
recording sessions with people and
Mm-hmm.
getting everything ready.
Yeah, sure. So probably I will just add that on our show notes, right? So for those everyone
Perfect.
who might be interested, especially for those want to be really business savvy, an entrepreneur. I think that's really a great way to really grow your business and grow your presence, right? And your awareness as well in the surroundings of or in the community, right? So yeah, we thank you so much again, Diane. To wrap up the show, what's your best practical advice in macro level, right? So in general, what's your best practical advice for creatives, entrepreneurs, and business owners out there who are listening to the podcast?
Be teachable. Never and never be afraid to be curious and ask questions when you don't understand something. Was that a okay answer?
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, short but really, really powerful. And yeah, that's it. So again,
Thank you.
Diane,
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
dropping by on the podcast. And for those who are listening, so if you want to check all the links that we've mentioned here, or check the recommendation or show notes, just scroll down in your favorite podcasting platform. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or actually in any of your favorite podcasting app. You can also go to the designlifeshow.com. That's the designlifeshow.com to learn more about the podcast and check the great episode, including this with Diane. And make sure to listen on it and take notes and be teachable, like like Diane has said to us. So that's it. Again, thank you so much, Diane, for dropping by on the podcast, and help you had had you know you had a great time on the podcast, and I hope you
I
enjoyed
did.
it. Yeah.
I did. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the community. Thank you for being a light. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for just being you and being a mentor, being ready and able to help other people and bring people along on your journey. So thank
Yeah.
you for asking me. I really appreciate it. So
Yeah, it's
all the
it's
luck
an
and
honor. Yeah. For sure.
thank you.
Thank you. And that's it. So thank you so much guys for listening again to the podcast, and I really appreciate it. For those people who are asking me on how to support the podcast, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. So in that way, you can help me to reach more people and make the podcast more discoverable within the ecosystem. You can also take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with your friends, colleagues, or to anyone that might be interested in this kind of contents. You can also support the podcast monetarily by visiting jcristeves.com/donate or patreon.com/TDLS. And you can also shop courses and tools online to design the life you really deserve by visiting my shop at shop.jcristeves.com. And you can book a call today. I don't bite, just let me know, guys. So the last one would be also by listening and to all the podcast episode and previous episode. And however you support my message, however small that is, more than enough, and it means the world to me. So thank you so much, and see you again next time.